Joseph Smith, the Egyptian papyri, and the problem of modern half-truths. The core clarifying question. A simple question clears up much of the confusion surrounding Joseph Smith, the Book of Abraham, and the Egyptian papyri. Most debates collapse because people mix together three separate questions. 1. How many papyrus scrolls were originally acquired by Joseph Smith? 2. How long were those scrolls according to early Latter-day Saints sources? 3. How much papyrus actually survives today? When these questions are separated instead of blended together, the historical picture becomes much clearer. 2. What Joseph Smith acquired in 1835. In 1835, Joseph Smith purchased Egyptian mummies and papyri from Michael Chandler. Contemporary Latter-day Saint publications and eyewitness accounts consistently describe multiple papyrus rolls, not one or two small fragments. Early saints did not describe scraps. They described rolls. During the Nouveau period, publications, most notably Times and Seasons in 1842, refer to long papyrus scrolls, including at least two principal rolls, along with additional rolls and fragments. Multiple witnesses familiar with the collection consistently described more than one scroll being present. 3. Early estimates of scroll length and the mathematics involved. One commonly cited Nouveau-era description places the length of a single papyrus roll at approximately 16 feet when unrolled. This number is significant because it represents a per scroll estimate, not a total measurement. Once that number is understood, the mathematics becomes straightforward. If Joseph Smith possessed 5 scrolls, each approximately 16 feet long, the total length would be 80 feet. 6 scrolls, each approximately 16 feet long, the total length would be 96 feet. This is simple multiplication. No speculation is required. IV. Why larger numbers circulated among early saints? Some people encounter much larger figures, 120 feet or even 160 feet or more, and wonder where those numbers originated. They come from combining several factors found in early descriptions: more than 2 papyrus rolls, additional papyrus sheets and fragments, scrolls that were not identical in length, eyewitness language referring to a large quantity of papyrus. Early saints often spoke impressionistically rather than technically, especially when describing collections that were partially rolled, stacked, mounted, or laid out for viewing. When one combines multiple rolls longer than 16 feet, mounted sheets laid end to end, it becomes clear how very large total footage estimates circulated among early members. V. What survives today? In contrast to 19th-century descriptions, the papyri rediscovered in 1967 at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City, later returned to the church, measure approximately 2½ to 3 feet total when laid end to end. That fact is not controversial. It is widely acknowledged. 6. 3 facts that must be held together honestly. An honest discussion requires holding all 3 of the following facts simultaneously. 1. Early Latter-day Saint sources describe multiple long papyrus scrolls, not tiny fragments. 2. Individual scrolls were described as being approximately 16 feet long. 3. Only a small fraction of the original papyri survives today. This alone explains why people frequently talk past one another. 7. Egyptological reconstruction and comparative methods. Egyptologists estimate original scroll lengths by comparing surviving fragments with known Egyptian funerary papyri, many of which range from 20 to 40 or more feet per scroll. This comparative reconstruction method is standard Egyptology and is not unique to the Joseph Smith papyri. Meanwhile, Early Latter-day Saint eyewitnesses were simply describing what they actually saw in Nauvoo, multiple long rolls, unrolled and displayed in various forms. No exaggeration is required on either side. What is required is clarity. 8. Eyewitness testimony from the 19th century. Oliver Cowdery. One of the earliest witnesses was Oliver Cowdery, who personally examined the papyri. Writing in December 1835, he stated, "There were 2 rolls of papyrus, besides some other ancient Egyptian writings. On opening the inner end of the same, there were found 2 or 3 other small pieces of papyrus, with astronomical calculations, epitaphs, and so forth." Source: Oliver Cowdery, Latter-day Saints Messenger and Advocate, Volume 2, Number 3, December 1835, pages 234 through 236. This is not a description of fragments. It is a description of multiple rolls plus additional pieces. Times and seasons. During the Nauvoo period, the Book of Abraham was introduced in Times and Seasons, edited by Joseph Smith. A translation of some ancient records that have fallen into our hands, from the catacombs of Egypt. The records were written on papyrus, and preserved with the mummies. Source: Times and Seasons, Volume 3, Number 9, March 1, 1842, page 704. Again, this language presumes records, plural, not scraps. Josiah Quincy. An especially important witness is Josiah Quincy, a non-Latter-day Saint who visited Nauvoo in 1844. Some parchments, inscribed with hieroglyphics, were exhibited to us. They were long rolls of manuscript, and resembled papyrus. Source: Josiah Quincy, Figures of the Past, Boston, Roberts Brothers, 1883, page 386. These witnesses had no reason to lie, exaggerate, or anticipate later Egyptological debates. They described what they saw. 9. The problem with modern ex-Mormon narratives. Here is where modern ex-Mormon arguments collapse. They take modern fragment measurements and project them backward, implying that Joseph Smith and early saints only ever possessed those few feet. That is false. Modern museums describe what survives. 19th century eyewitnesses described what existed. Those are not the same thing. Ex-Mormon narratives often dismiss all 19th century eyewitness testimony, ignore non-Latter-day Saint witnesses, treat modern reconstructions as infallible when convenient. This is not honest skepticism. It is ideological blindness. Personal position and declaration. I want to be absolutely clear. I am not a member of any church. I do not defend modern institutional Mormonism. I do not accept modern church leadership as prophets, seers, or revelators. But I do affirm this without hesitation. Joseph Smith, in the 19th century, was a true prophet, seer, and revelator. He produced actual fruits, public visions, angelic visitations, revealed doctrine, restored priesthood authority, new scripture. No amount of selective quotation or museum reductionism erases that reality. 11. Sorrow, not hatred. I do not hate ex-Mormons. I do not mock them. I feel genuine sorrow for those who have allowed resentment, bitterness, or ideological allegiance to replace careful truth-seeking. Not because they left a church, but because they have accepted half-truths as complete explanations. They are children of God who deserve better than slogans, caricatures, and selective history. Reject Joseph Smith if you must, but reject him honestly. Do not amputate the historical record and call it evidence. 12. Final affirmation. I follow God, not institutions. I love truth more than belonging. And in the 1800s, when God called a prophet to restore revelation, Joseph Smith stands alone. No council appointed him. No committee voted him in. No institution manufactured his authority. God called him. And no amount of modern half-truths or motivated reasoning will undo that fact. Part 5 of Wonders of the Universe, Chapter 2 of Mysteries of Creation by Ogden.